The observation deck of the scattered stars was never truly silent. The hum of life support systems, the occasional chirp of status updates, and the soft padding of various species moving about their duties created a constant symphony of interstellar existence. But in that particular moment, as Mira Dane stood reviewing supply manifests on her datapad, the universe seemed to hold its breath. Tali, a Varan cub barely 3 months old, had been perched on the edge of the navigation table. Her species small, furred bipeds from the Outer Rim colonies were known for their cautious nature, their careful deliberation before every action. At 3 months, Tali was already developing the methodical thought patterns her people were famous for. She had been reaching for a stylus, her small paw extended, her large amber eyes focused with the intensity only the very young could muster. Physics, however, cared little for caution or intent. The cub's center of gravity shifted. Her hindquarters lifted. Her front paw grasped only air. In the span of a heartbeat, less than a heartbeat, Tali began to fall. Mira's hand moved. She didn't think, didn't calculate, didn't process the vector of Tali's descent or measure the distance between them. Her body simply reacted. The datapad clattered to the deck as Mira's arm shot out, crossing the 3 meters between them in a blur of motion that defied what the other observers thought possible. Her fingers closed around Tali's small torso with the gentleness of a parent cradling a newborn, the precision of a surgeon, and the speed of lightning splitting a summer sky. Tali blinked. Once. Twice. Her mouth opened in what might have become a cry of surprise or fear, but the sound never came. She was simply there, in Mira's hands, safe and confused, her small heart beginning to race, only after the danger had passed. "Got you," Mira murmured, lifting the cub to eye level. "You're okay, little one." The observation deck, which had been alive with the movement of a dozen species, fell into absolute silence. Commander Vex Raul, a Threnodai whose compound eyes could track multiple targets simultaneously, stood frozen with his secondary arms half raised. Ensign Court, whose reflexes were considered exceptional among his kind, hadn't even registered that Tali had been falling. It was Dr. Shanira who broke the silence, her melodic voice carrying a note of disbelief that transcended universal translation. That should not be possible." Mira looked up, still cradling Tali, confusion evident on her face. "What shouldn't?" "The reaction time." Shanira approached slowly, her sensory tendrils quivering with scientific curiosity. "The cub had fallen approximately 0.32 seconds before you caught her. The distance covered, the precision required." She trailed off, her species' inability to comprehend what she'd witnessed evident in her posture. Commander Vex Raul's mandibles clicked in agitation. "Human Dane, I have been monitoring life forms for 17 cycles. I pride myself on threat assessment and protective protocols. I did not see the cub fall until she was already in your grasp." Mira shifted Tali to one arm, the cub now purring softly against her chest, completely unaware of the existential crisis she'd triggered among the crew. She was falling. "I caught her." "I don't understand what's complicated about that." "What's complicated?" Court interjected, his gruff voice tinged with respect. "Is that among my people, we train for cycles to achieve combat reflexes. We undergo genetic optimization. We use neural enhancers. And still, our best warriors could not have done what you just did." Tali yawned, revealing tiny fangs, and nestled closer to Mira's warmth. The human absently stroked the cub's head, her other hand retrieving her fallen datapad. "Humans catch things," she said simply. "It's just what we do." Dr. Shanira's tendrils coiled and uncoiled in what Mira had learned to recognize as intense thought. "No, Human Dane. Most species do not just catch things. When an object falls, we calculate, we assess, we decide if intervention is possible or warranted. The cognitive processing alone requires time you don't have." Mira finished. She looked down at Tali, who had fallen asleep with the casual ease of the very young and the very safe. "Where I come from, we had to catch things, falling tools, stumbling children, dropped food. Our world was dangerous, Doctor. Gravity was unforgiving. Predators were fast. We evolved to react, not to think about reacting. Commander Vexoral's posture shifted, his military bearing giving way to something approaching wonder. Your species developed predator reflexes? We developed persistence hunter reflexes, Mira corrected. We're not the fastest species. We're not the strongest. But we're stubborn. And we're quick when we need to be. She smiled down at Tali. And we protect the small ones. Always. The observation deck remained quiet. But the quality of the silence had changed. What had been shock was now something closer to understanding. Or, at least the beginning of it. Ensign Cord approached slowly, his massive frame somehow less intimidating than usual. "May I?" he asked, gesturing toward the sleeping cub. Mira carefully transferred Tali to his arms. The warrior held her with exquisite care, his expression unreadable but his posture protective. "We choose our crew carefully aboard the scattered stars," Vexral said, his voice formal but warm. "We select for skill, intelligence, and compatibility. But perhaps we have not fully appreciated what humanity brings to our vessel." Mira picked up her datapad again, checking the supply manifests with practiced efficiency. "We bring coffee addiction and terrible jokes. Mostly. You bring the instinct to catch falling cubs before they panic," Dr. Shanira said softly. "In a universe of deliberation and calculation, you bring instant, unthinking compassion." Mira shrugged, uncomfortable with the attention. "Anyone would have." "No," Cord interrupted gently, still cradling the sleeping Tali. "Anyone would have tried. You simply did." The human returned to her work, but she couldn't quite suppress her smile. Around her, the crew of the scattered stars resumed their duties, but something had shifted in the way they moved around their human colleague. There was a new awareness, a deeper respect, and in Cort's arms, Tali dreamed peaceful dreams, unaware that she had fallen, unaware that she had been caught, knowing only that the universe was a safe place where warm arms were always there when needed. Behind it all, Mira Dane reviewed supply manifests and planned their next resupply stop, her reflexes at rest but always ready, her humanity quietly making the galaxy a little bit safer, one caught cub at a time.